Welcome to Sold with Webinars, a podcast that aims to uncover how the most successful experts, coaches, consultants, and e-course professionals sell their products and services with just one sales presentation or webinar. A simple sales webinar can transform the business and life of a solopreneur. And this podcast will show you how other experts just like you are generating 6 and 7 figures per year online with their webinars. So let's get started. Hey, what's going on, experts? Joel here with another episode of Sold with Webinars. We just finished up my interview with Bastian Ernst from Wild Audience, and you guys are going to love this episode. Now, I got to admit, I was a little weary and a little nervous about hopping on this podcast. I know Bastian, he reached out to me and wanted to talk about what he was doing with webinars and how he was leveraging some unique engagement sequences and relationship-based funnels to get 9 and 10% conversion rates on his webinar. Now, he goes through some it can get rather complex in terms of segmentation and automation, but I was pleasantly surprised with how this interview turned out. You know me, I'm more all about simplicity, but Bastian's episode turned out to be fantastic. We jumped into all sorts of important things to talk about, including lead scoring and some other really cool things that I know you guys are going to enjoy. So when you get to the end of this episode, make sure reach out to Bastian, let him know you heard him on Sold with Webinars, and give him some feedback on this episode. Okay, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Bastian, what's up, man?
What's up? Super excited. It's gonna be awesome.
Man. I'm super pumped to have you on too. I want you to spend a quick 30 seconds. Just tell us a little bit about your company and tell us a little bit more about what it is that you actually do. And you asked me before if we want to tell your origin story. Go ahead and give us a little bit of background about how you got to this point with Wild Audience.
Yeah, sure. So I run a company called Wild Audience, and we are a marketing company. And what we do is, the one thing we are known for is respect-based marketing. That's a way of marketing. It's a way of doing business. And basically, in the past, I was doing what everyone else was doing, right? I was using a lot of bonuses. I was using countdown timers. I was using discounts. I was using all these things, fake scarcity, urgency. And I used everything at the same time because I saw all these other guys doing it, right? So I thought, that's the way to go, right? But it really didn't feel like me, and I felt like I'm this pushy salesman, and I know a lot of people are like that. They don't like it, right? But they keep doing it because everyone else is doing it. That's why we kind of did the sagging move and said, okay, we're gonna start doing something else, and that's respect-based marketing. Okay, and what this is basically it's combining good old relationship marketing, respect-based marketing, which are elements of business which have always been there, right? It's businesses, relationships between people, right? And you just take that and combine it with extremely advanced and super cool automation to make it, super fun, right? And that's what we do. That's what Wild Audience is all about.
So I love what you said there, right? So when I think, I've never called it respect-based marketing, right? That's your term, right? But I get where you're coming from, right? It's your whole method is segmentation, giving the right message to the right person at the right time. Am I correct in making that assumption?
Yeah, that's totally right.
Okay. So when I think about that, and we talked about this during our pre-interview, in my mind, I'm just God, I'm all about simplicity, right? I don't want to get super complex. I totally get it. And I'm going to take the role as the curious student here, because I want you to sell me on why I really need to be doing this, because I'm simplistic. I hate fake scarcity too, so 100% on board with that. But I like simplistic. Right. That's effective for me. So I want to know the pivot point, right? In my other podcast, Experts Unleashed, I always talk about pivot points, but I'm really interested right now in learning what your pivot point was to get away from old school direct response, fake scarcity, all that.
Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah.
What was that deciding point for you?
So I was doing marketing, as I said before, but it was also not evergreen. It was not evergreen. It was based on launches and weekly and monthly promotions. Okay. So I used day of happiness and day of X and day of Y. It's just to launch another promotion because I needed to keep up, revenue, right? And so I used every type of excuse to do a promotion, right? So I was very dependent on these days and promotions and launches. And then I had a monthly promotion going on, of course. And then this one day, this one promotion just didn't work out. It screwed up, and I screwed up, right? And either you screw up or the system, the ESP, maybe doesn't send out the emails not in time. You screw, right? You are 100% dependent on that promotion if your entire marketing, your sales activities are based on launches and promotions, right? And that's what I did. And then I screwed up. I was like, okay, my entire revenue was gone. I was like, I couldn't pay my people and so on. I was like, okay, it's fun, it's good promotions, but I don't want to be dependent on them. And that's when I switched to evergreen marketing and respect-based marketing, right? So now what we do is we build evergreen systems with an asset mindset, right? We build assets, everything is evergreen. And then on top of that, we do the birthday promotion like I did 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we do this promotion, but if it doesn't work out, I'm cool. I have evergreen going on, right? And that's kind of like what the pivot point was for me.
Awesome. Okay. So now take me down this journey, right? We talked about before, you have lots of clients, lots of successful testimonials. We talked about a couple of them, but in particular, you talked about one client who had a 9 to 10% conversion rate on registrations using one of these relationship funnels with a live webinar. Okay.
Right.
Talk about how that structure was set up. Let's talk about that marketing funnel and how they got led up to the webinar.
Yeah. So let's keep it very simple, right? So at the beginning, you always want to figure out, and that's what I helped them with, is who is your customer avatar, right? Very simple, right? You choose one or two people, right? And then you want to build a funnel, a sales experience for this person or these two types of avatars, right? So who is that person? What is this person's problem and goal, right? And then you want to put something out there to attract this type of person through a lead magnet. What we did for this guy is a PDF. It was, I think, 15 pages. Okay, we promoted it through Facebook ads, right? And so the webinar was not on front; it was actually in the back end, right? We used it as a conversion event, not to attract people for lead gen, right? Mm-hmm. So we had a PDF for lead gen, and basically, when they sign up, we usually ask for first name and email address, but we ask for something else, just one simple question, right? Everyone fills this out. We had no drop-offs there. What's your biggest problem? Right? And then basically with that question, we store that data in our system, right? And then we use it to segment our people, right? And then that just helps to personalize the experience. He did something else. He added a second survey. We asked a couple of more questions. It was actually 4 questions, total 5 questions. And we used all of this data to personalize the sales experience, right? What's your biggest problem? What's your goal? And then 3 questions related to your business, right? And then you can use that data in the email to prepare people for the conversion event, which in his case was a webinar, right? That allows you to become, relevant because that person feels like, hey, this is personalized, customized to me. That's relevant to me. Okay, because it's relevant to me, I'm actually going to be engaging, right? And that's the key here. Because, having webinars, we use webinars a lot. We love them. But for us, what we noticed is if we get the right people to engage before the webinar, that's how we can increase our conversion rates during the live webinar, right? Mm-hmm. Because getting the right people to engage will always increase your revenue as well, right? And the reason why is because if you think about it, it's something like a micro investment, okay? Mm-hmm. So if someone once, signs up for a lead magnet, that's one micro investment. If someone then clicks in an email, is another micro investment, right? If you tell people what to do and they do it, these all acts as a little yes, prepares them for the webinar. And that's what we do. We prepare people for the webinar.
Okay. Makes total sense. Micro commitments, I get it, right? The more micro commitments, the more yeses, the more engagement that you can get with somebody. That's like them raising their hand saying, yo, Bastian, I'm interested in whatever it is that you're teaching, right? Give me more, give me more, give me more. So I want to take a step back though, because I want to learn more about your relationship funnel and like the core elements that are necessary for that to work. So obviously this is heavily based on segmentation, true or false?
True. Yeah, very true. But before that, there's something else. Okay. And it's attention. Okay. And that's something what Gary Vee always says, right? Attention is the currency of business, right? Because if you think about it, if you try to sell someone, this person is on his phone on WhatsApp, right? Talking to someone else, the person is not able to understand and grasp what you say if you sell that person, right? So if you know how to maintain people's attention, that's when you win, right? And that's what respect-based marketing does. And how we do this is, as you said, segmentation, right? Collecting data and then being personal, right? And if you're personal, people show interest, and that's what attention is. Right? And then once you have that person, and that person is showing interest, that's when you then deliver the close or the sale, right?
Got it. So I'm really curious about this because there has to be this fine line, this delicate dance of like, how much segmentation is too much segmentation, right? Because with any marketing funnel, you can jump in and you can create thousands of branches and different logic, as many as you want, right? So take me back to when you really started developing the first iterations of this, right? How did you decide, like, I want to start with this much segmentation, or, take me through that journey of like the first iterations.
Yeah. At the beginning, you don't start out with a crazy multi-channel funnel with 3 different channels and 3 different buckets and segmentation interview 1 and whatever, right? Lead bucketing 2. But you don't do that. No. At the beginning, what I would do is I would create a lead magnet, a PDF, and I would create the webinar, and I would bridge the 2 through an email sequence. And that's cool. And of course, an offer, right? And that's what you take, right? And then only later, step by step, you add the missing pieces like segmentation. That's only also relevant if the type of person you want to attract has different goals, right? So if everyone is the same, which is of course not the case, then you don't even need it. But like everyone has a different problem because everyone is at a different stage when they find out about you, right? That's what you want to know, and you want to know the goal because everyone has a different goal. If you have these 2 things, that's enough to personalize, enough to be relevant, right? And to have a great user experience. 2 things: problem, goal. That's it.
Makes total sense. Okay, so I'm super happy that you said that because, like, in my mind, like I've said before, I'm all about simplicity.
Right.
How do you then, so let's say you're starting out very basic, lead magnet webinar, right? So let's say the webinar is converting, which means you've at least got an offer that your audience wants, right? Am I collecting data during that initial test launch, which is lead magnet and webinar? Like, am I collecting data that's prepping for the future segmentation? And how do I segment now? Like when I'm ready to go ninja and I'm ready to go more relationship-based marketing, but like I'm starting from step 1, which is just the basic, sending everybody to the webinar through the lead magnet, right? In that step, like, am I collecting different types of information that's prepping me for the future segmentation?
The way you got to look at this is it's ROI based, right? So you have your first iteration out there, just simple as possible, right? And then let's say you have 100 people, that's usually the number we take, and people who go through the whole thing, check out the webinar and so on, right? And then we do kind of like an as-is analysis. Okay, how did it perform? What's the ROI, right? And then, if it's working awesome, you don't need to do anything, but usually it doesn't work awesome. To be the first iteration, usually the ROI is not there, right? And that's how it is in the funnel game, right? And that's you can't really change it. But what you got to do is you got to figure out and try to find the problems, and then use ninja tactics to make it better, improve it, to increase that ROI, right? But take it step by step, and you always look at the ROI and then try to fix the problems with ninja tactics if necessary. But don't show all of them.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say we're looking at the ROI, right? And we've got a funnel. It's sold products, but maybe the ROI is like, do you have benchmarks saying if we're not at break even, or if we're not at 2-to-1 ROI, then we start going ninja? Like, talk me through that thought process of like when you start to go ninja to improve.
Yeah, the first goal is always to get it profitable, right? And at the beginning, it won't be profitable usually. That's my experience. And then you just take it step by step. Okay, in order for someone to check out the webinar and pull up their credit card, they first need to actually sign up for the webinar, right? Before signing up, they actually need to click the link. Before clicking, they need to open, right? So you got to fix every single piece until you then fix the conversion problem in the webinar. Right? Mm-hmm. That's how you got to look at it, right? Until you get it profitable. And then you have it profitable, and then you say, okay, now it's converting, I don't know, X percent, right? And you want to get it to Y, right? And then you would add whatever you want to add, right? You don't have to go ninja, right? You just take what's necessary to make it better and improve it, right? And you have a big pool of options: segmentation, multi-channel, Facebook ad retargeting, bots, right? You have so many things: personalization inside of the emails, personalization on the website. You can do all these things, or you just take it step by step. So in this relationship style funnel, what are the most critical
elements of making this actually perform based on your system? Is it engagement? I mean, what are the elements that make this actually work?
Yeah. You just mentioned it. We optimize for engagement. That's what we do. Because we know if we get the right people to engage, we will always increase conversions and sales. Okay, here's why. If you get more people to click, which is engaging, right, inside an email to register for a webinar or check out the sales page or whatever, right? If you get more people to click than me, for example, right, you will automatically expose more people to the webinar just by getting more people to click, right? Same amount of traffic. So that's why we always optimize for engagement. And respect-based marketing does only that, right? We use different things, and that might go into much detail, like activation hooks, micro investments, open loops, cliffhangers, all these frequency selectors, all these things to get people engaged, right? And prepare people and install all the buying beliefs so the people, once they are at the webinar, like at the live webinar or whatever kind of webinar, they have most of the buying beliefs installed, right? And then the webinar is just way easier for the presenter.
So can you take me through an example, right, of one of your relationship-based marketing funnels that was like, I want to know the before and after, right? First launch, or first iteration, you're running the test and whatever, break even or slightly profitable, but like as soon as you started implementing your relationship-based systems, like what were those results and what were some of those changes? What were the changes that made the biggest impact?
Yeah. Just this week, I had a call with one of our clients, and basically they have a huge email list of almost 200,000 people. And they're doing webinars very frequently, live and also evergreen. And basically, we're working on a relationship funnel together with them. Okay. And basically, they had their conversion rate was a little bit like 0.9 something, right? Their open rates was below 10%. Their click rates were 0.92. And then after we implemented all these engagement ninja things, we increased open rates from below 10 to above 30. We increased click rate from below 1, 9.1 to, what was it? Crazy, like 27% in some of the emails, right? So and on average, we got it above 10 from below 1, right? And then conversions as well. They convert between 4 and 5% now. It was 1% before, right?
Nice.
So, and that's all because we optimized for engagement.
So you 4 to 5x their ultimate end results, right? Through this optimization process. Okay, so let's use these guys as an example, right? So was this a live webinar or an evergreen one?
This was a live every Thursday.
Live every Thursday. Okay, cool. Can you point to like the one biggest change that made like the biggest impact, right? What like in this example, right? What was the single biggest impact that you had? The single biggest change in the relationship-based funnel?
Clicking, getting people to click, okay? Because clicking is necessary to sign up and register, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how just more people on the webinar, right? And the cool thing about this was, this is not something you can teach someone like instantly, right? That's why we have the preparation going on, right? Before the webinar, we have a couple of days where we prepare people, install the buying beliefs, and so establish the relationship and so on, right? And there I mentioned the micro investments, right? People need to click and so on, right? And we teach them to click, right? And then when we ask them, hey, please register for the webinar, they know it, right? So I think the single most important thing was increasing click rate from 0.91 to, on average, throughout the sequence of above 10%. That was a huge thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, so was it just different copy that you're putting inside of the emails, or was it segmentation that made all the difference? Like, what was the change?
The change was mainly based on micro investments and frequency selectors. Let me explain. So, for example, there was a sequence going on, an educational sequence where we provided value and established a relationship before the webinar. Okay, and basically this sequence was like a little mini course, right? And it was 7 lessons, and each lesson, probably what you know is that you send lesson one day and then 1 day after the second, and so on, right? And what they did, they added a frequency selector where you give people the chance, hey, do you want to get the next lesson now or in 2 days, right? So you put the steering wheel into their hands, right? You get them to click, they can choose, right? So that allows us to get people to go through the entire course way faster, because someone who is engaged, who actually digs it, loves it, right? They go through it way fast because they click yes, no, right? They go deeper, faster, and you have the micro investment and get them to click, right? So these are two main things because you can also decrease the ROI if people go through it faster, right? So that's kind of like the main thing. I think the micro investments was the big takeaway there.
So I agree with you. I think that the single biggest thing that I heard through there was really, really powerful, which was give them the steering wheel, right? Give them the ability. I think that's a big thing that's missing in marketing. And I know that other people have done this before, where you give them the control to choose their own path, right?
Exactly.
I think it's super powerful because it's almost like if somebody's ready to buy now, I think the general rule of thumb is like 2% of your audience is ready to buy right now, right? So if they're ready to buy right now, why withhold it? Like the chances are you're probably going to lose them if you put those barriers in. So I love that. Have them choose their own path, consume at their own rate, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty much like a funnel is nothing else than a world, right? And you as a business owner, you create your own world/funnel. You are the architect, right? You decide which paths are available, but then you give the steering wheel to the person, to the lead, and then they guide themselves, they drive through it with the steering wheel and choose their own adventure, right?
Have you ever tested all right, so my mind is spinning, right? As an engineer, like I'm just thinking of all these different combinations and possibilities, right? And you talk about building assets in Evergreen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tested lead magnet, and then maybe you've got that drip sequence to an Evergreen webinar that's X number of days in the future? Have you ever tested expediting them getting access to the webinar? Like if they're like screaming red hot, and they want to go plow through the entire thing, they enjoy the content, and they want to watch the webinar right now. Have you ever tested that?
Like having the drip sequence with the frequency selector so they can actually go through it really fast, and then having an evergreen webinar?
Yes,
that's what we are using right now.
Oh yeah? It's working well? Or how is it working?
Yeah. It's working better than the live webinars for us in terms of the amount of time we have to put into and the revenue it generates. Yeah. So yeah, that's our choice right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. So why do you think that's true? So it's outperforming your live webinar.
It is, yes. I mean, for me, one main thing is just not needing to do the live webinar every Thursday because I've done it for, I don't know, like almost more than 100 times every single Thursday. And we have tweaked the presentation so many times, right? So I'm like, all right, I don't want to do it anymore, right? So for me, that's a huge win, having found the winner and then having people just going through it evergreen. Yeah. So yeah.
It's awesome. So, do you force them to sign up through an Evergreen webinar platform still? So they still have to wait for it, right? Or is it truly on demand?
So it's so it depends. The live one, the instant one, right? Yeah. We use a tool called Demio for that.
Yeah.
So it's one click without registration kind of thing, right? Right now we actually testing this against just a Vimeo video, right? Seeing what works better without a webinar platform. And then with the live ones, we actually had really cool stuff going on with the bot to get people to show up. We had a one-click sign up to the webinar through the bot. So we sent the data from the email system to the bot system through Zapier, which just makes the experience really, really cool. And then they got reminded without any crazy hurts, you know what I mean? So it was really cool.
Fantastic, man. So, okay, let's keep going down this webinar path, right? Because I know I can guarantee there's somebody listening right now and they're like, okay, great. I'm running a live webinar each week, or I've got a webinar funnel and I get asked all the time, how do I increase the show up rates, right?
Yeah.
What are some tips that people can do right now? So let's say they've already got some form of a webinar funnel implemented right now. How can they implement a tiny piece of a relationship-based marketing funnel to increase the show-up rates?
Yeah, that's a good one. So basically, one thing we learned in the past, what we did was we actually started inviting people on Friday for a Thursday webinar, right? So the period in between was very long. And then when we tried to shorten that, just 24 hours before, and then actually still inviting people on the same day, that increased show-up rates. That was actually for a client. And he increased it crazy just with this approach by shortening the time between the sign-up. So I think that's one tip. And another one would be bots. It's funny. Like when I'm like on my, Demio ready to go, right? And then I know the bot's message is about to send out and suddenly like, people come in just because of the bot, right? It's so crazy. The bot has such a power to like get people somewhere really quickly. Yeah.
Messenger bots is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So is it simple to integrate a messenger bot for reminder sequences?
Yeah, it's actually really, it's quite simple. So basically, when you send out an invite, let's say you have an invite to a live webinar to a list, to your list, right? People register, and then you just, on the thank you page, after they register, you just tell them, hey, I have a script, or maybe I have a summary of something, a PDF, if you want to get it, plus the reminder, click this button. We use ManyChat for that, right? And then they click it, boom, and then they can download the PDF from Facebook Messenger. Right?
Nice.
And then you remind them a day before, and then an hour before, or 10 minutes before, right? That's what we do. And then also we do it for the post sequence as well, to send them the replay.
Perfect. Yeah, bots are amazing. We've got a lot of success from people who are using bots. I mean, we talked to Molly Kaiser on an earlier episode, and she was getting 75 or 80% show up rates on her live webinar because she was using bots. It was crazy. So, you're just another testament to say, like, you got to do bot marketing. I mean, that's the biggest attention right now, the most attention.
Especially for webinars or like Facebook Lives or everything, like some event which is timely, use bots. Yeah, messenger bots.
So I'm curious. Okay, you're always experimenting, I'm assuming. Like I can just tell by talking to you, it's like you're always testing different things. You love marketing. You love, tweaking certain things. What do you see in the land of webinars and relationship-based marketing? Like, what are some of the tests that you're going to be doing in the future, or you're doing now that you probably don't have data on, but like things that you think would make a huge impact? So I just want to futuristic right now.
I mean, actually right now, what I've been working on today is a new webinar funnel for our own company, for Wild Audience. And basically it's just tweaking up the webinar experience a little bit. Basically having a lead magnet, PDF, add lead magnet, and then on the thank you page, already presenting the webinar. Okay. So people who want to watch it, they can do it instantly after sign up, right? And then the RBS, having the RBS after that webinar. RBS is basically the email sequence, right? Where you install the beliefs, establish the relationship, and so on, right? So you have that after the initial webinar, and then you can either draft them to the webinar again or to a sales page, right? So that's kind of like what we're testing right now, and I'm super excited for the results. Because we have a front end, like a small product at the beginning, and it worked so well that we thought, okay, maybe why don't we just put the webinar right at the beginning, right? And then stack the email sequence after, right? Then we have kind of like 2 touch points where we can sell people a product.
Yeah. How much is the price point on your products right now for that first one? Yeah.
So the front end, what we have there right now is just $12, but then there's an upsell 1 and 2, and then the core is around 1,000. But for this test, which I'm working on right now, we're actually going to sell the 1K product right on the thank you page.
Nice.
Let's see how it works.
So I can give you my thoughts on it. I think it's going to work very well. I mean, I think you're going to see it more in the long term. So I don't know how many sales you'll get immediately, but I think what it does, and I've seen this work time and time again, especially when you're building long-term assets and long-term relationships, is you want your audience to know that you have stuff to sell them and not be just freeloaders. So letting them know that you've got $1,000 products up front, but you're still giving them value, like it's at least price anchored. And it lets them know that you have value, and your company, number one, you're a business, so you sell stuff, but you're not just selling $10, $12, trinkets. So anyway, I think it's going to work very, very well. We were planning to test something very similar with like a, framing it in the beginning as like, hey, just watch this replay, and on the thank you page, put the webinar replay rather than having a live webinar. But
what's your kind of like most fun, best webinar kind of thing? What do you run right now?
Yeah, so we're building a new webinar right now for our Webinar Vault program. So we've launched our membership site, $97 a month. Like we're breaking down all these webinars. We're giving our training in there and our software, the whole 9 yards. And so we'll be launching a new webinar for that very, very soon. And we're going to be testing some cool things with that. So that's our project right now.
Nice.
But yeah, no, I'm pretty excited about it. And you got me excited about complex marketing funnels a little bit. I'm not going to lie. It's I don't ever preach the idea of complex marketing funnels, but I get the idea of building relationships and delivering the right message to the right person at the right time. And I think that's ultimately what you do, and you're obviously very, very accomplished at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you said, right? It's just if you have like a webinar, right, and you just focus on the webinar, and then but after the webinar, what do you do with the people who don't convert, right? How do you stay in contact, right? And just having and we call it the Evergreen Newsletter, meaning it's a once a week email, right? But it's evergreen, meaning people who sign up after the first email, they still get that, right? And then just having in the PS section, right, having two different call to actions, one for people who already bought maybe the front end, and one call to action for someone who hasn't bought anything, right? That's segmentation, right? That's personalization, right? And that's how you are relevant, by offering the right product to the right person, right? It's very simple stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you do with the people who don't buy, right? Because that's a really, really important segment, right? It's
very important.
And so you just dump them on your weekly newsletter, right?
So what we do there is, so our approach is like this. So we have our core funnel, which is usually 7 emails, and that prepares people for a webinar. Okay. And of course, the majority of people won't buy, right? So what do you do with the people? Basically, what we do is we have an evergreen newsletter where we send 1 email a week, right? But it's multi-channel, meaning there's also a Facebook ad and a bot and so on. But then we launch conversion events dynamically. Basically, we track the lead score, which an ESP like Active Campaign, Drip, and so on can do, right? And then once someone hits certain thresholds, right, we launch an invite to another webinar. We launch a 3-day evergreen promotion. Hey, get this product for free if you buy the core, right? And that's based on how much they engage in the evergreen newsletter.
We didn't even talk about lead scoring. I've never talked about lead scoring, right? How important is that? I mean, like, is that like a critical part of RBS?
For me, it's just like in terms of like doing webinars, I loved it so much. Just before the webinar was going on, it's just going through the registrations, just check the lead score. And just by checking out what the lead score is on average, I knew how successful the webinar is going to be, how much fun it's going to be, right? I know if I have this type of people there with this type of lead score, I know the engagement is going to be way more up. I'm going to have way more fun, right? And then I see, oh shit, no, sorry. There's not many people like having a high lead score. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be a super boring webinar, right? So yeah, it's fun just for this part, you know?
Okay. So I want to take a little bit of a tangent here because I want to talk about lead scoring because I think it's super important. I mean, especially it relates very well to what we're talking about here, right? And I've never talked about lead scoring before. So what are your rules for increasing a lead score? Let's just start very, very basic because I might have some marketers that are on this webinar. Like, give me a quick 10-second rundown of what lead scoring is, and then let's talk about what constitutes increasing the lead score.
Right. So a lead score is showing you how engaged people are with what you put out there / your content, right? And the higher the lead score is, the more people engage with you and your content, right? Meaning, of course, it's important that you get the right people to engage because you can get someone really engaged and it's going to be an intern, doesn't have any money, right? And you won't be able to sell that person, right? So it's always take this into account. Maybe a CEO who's really busy is not going to have a high lead score, right? So you got to take this into account, but it gives you a good idea of where this person is at in the journey, right? And basically, what you do if you set up a lead scoring system, and usually the ESP, the email service provider, has this feature, right? It's not something you build yourself or buy in or whatever. Basically, what you need to set up are rules, what you mentioned before, right? For what do you give what points, right? And what we usually do is we don't give points for opening, okay? Because everyone opens and then archives, right? And then also with the pixel, which tracks the opening, often dysfunctions, doesn't work, right? So we only give points for actual actions, like clicking a link, visiting the sales page, right? Signing up for a lead magnet, registering for a webinar, right? And for example, what we do is we give 5 points for clicking a link, 20 points for a sales page visit, right? 100 points for buying the front end, right? That's kind of like how we do it.
Awesome. Okay. So then, like, how do you leverage your lead scores to make your campaign more effective?
So the way we do is, the way we use lead scoring the most is to launch conversion-based promotions. Okay. So for example, if I do a birthday promotion or if I do a day of happiness promotion, right, or I offer 10% discount or whatever, I'm not going to offer this to everyone because I know someone who has lead score 0, this person has not been exposed to my world, right? Doesn't have the buying beliefs, because I know someone will only buy once they have necessary beliefs in their mind, right? That's my approach, right? So I only sell to people who have a specific lead score. Okay, so that's one thing. And so for one-off broadcast style promotions. Another thing is we do dynamic promotions, meaning they launch on evergreen basis once someone hits certain lead scoring thresholds, like 75 points, right? Boom, first promotion is going to be sent out. That's an example, for example.
How do those perform?
In terms of what? ROI?
ROI conversion. Yeah. I mean, like...
Yeah, so like for us, it's like the idea to sell to someone that doesn't even open your emails or doesn't click doesn't really make sense. And that is why we first have the lead score. And once we launch people into this conversion event, we see like, it's crazy. Like we see click rates and open rates and engagement rates and buying rates way higher versus to campaigns which are sent out to everyone. Okay. And I mean, it's very simple. It's easy. It's easy to understand, because if you send out 10,000 email and then 5,000 emails are people are not like interested, right? They're not active, right? It will dilute your numbers. But if you send and the same email to a small segment of your list, which is really active, has a high lead score, guess what? Your numbers will go up.
Fantastic, man. I love it. I haven't done anything like that inside of my CRM. But I'm glad you mentioned it, because do you ever base your webinar invite emails to lead score? Or is that one of the ways that you try to just increase lead score? So you'll invite everybody, or what?
So two different parts here. So let's say if I have a free course type email sequence, right? I have call to actions to the webinar, right? Everyone will see this call to actions who are subscribed to this course, okay? But as I mentioned before, someone goes through the course, doesn't buy, they end up in the Evergreen Newsletter, right? When do you invite them again, right? And that's where I use lead scoring, right? Once I know they check out this article and this video and this thing, boom, then I'm going to do it. Then I'm going to invite them.
Perfect.
Okay? And the reason for that is just buying beliefs, right? I know the question is, what do I need someone to believe before they can accept the decision or the desire of your product or service, right? And that's what the email sequence and so on, and the content and the free content which you put out there, that's why you do that, right? You want to install these buying beliefs, right? And then once they're there, then the invite comes just at the right time, right?
Love it, man. Dude, Bastian, we've talked about a ton today. We went deep into your relationship funnel, segmentation, lead scoring, building assets, automation and evergreen assets, which is super, super important. And all of this has led to, your clients getting as much as a 9 to 10% conversion rate on their webinars. And we even talked about having your audience drive the wheel, like take the steering wheel and go through the funnel. So those people who are ready to buy now, or even if they're not necessarily ready to buy now, but they're on a fast track to consume, and then push themselves up to that, that 2% of the audience who's ready to buy now. I think that's super, super fantastic. Did we miss anything? Is there anything else that we didn't talk about?
I think we touched on all the crucial points. So I'm pretty happy with the outcome.
Good. So where can people connect with you? Let's plug it for a little bit and have people connect.
So pretty much the best thing to do is to go to wildaudience.com/podcast, right? And there you will be able to access and download a PDF. You need to sign up, and then you get the PDF, and that's basically a summary of what we just talked about. That's awesome. What this PDF is. Okay, so if you want to learn how to kind of like get a summary of that, then check out the PDF. And then the best part about this is that you see the whole thing in action, right? You will see that the website will be personalized. You will see that the content in the emails will be based on the answers you give me on the questions and so on. So you will see the whole thing, the steering wheel thing in action, right? That's probably pretty exciting for you. So yeah, check it out. wildaudience.com/podcast.
Awesome. wildaudience.com/podcast. So go check out Bastian. Let him know that you heard him on Sold with Webinars today. Bastian, man, I had a blast. Hopefully you had fun too, talking about your relationship funnel. There's lots of value that we talked about and that we dropped
awesome.
today. Yeah,
man. Enjoyed it a lot.
Awesome, dude. Well, super stoked that you joined us and that you reached out. So that's going to do it for our episode today, everybody. Like I said, go check out Bastian, connect with him, follow him. He's doing some amazing things, super smart marketer, and it's been a blast. So until next time, we'll see you on the next episode.
Peace out.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to giving you the next one. You can also follow and watch the behind-the-scenes look at how I'm personally launching a brand new 6- and 7-figure product from scratch at soldwithwebinars.com/TV. And if you'd like to come hang out with other fellow experts, join our Facebook group at soldwithwebinars.com/experts. Join us next time, and I'll see you there.